everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the
I do have a heart out today.
Hey! Look, I just wanted to see if I could do it. It's fine.
Well, this is our main show of the week. We got to talk about all things going on in the world of geekdom and have some fun doing that. And so thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching us on the Outlaw Nation channel or listening to us on our Geek Buddies podcast feed, which is out there for you all to subscribe to. Would love it if you guys subscribe to that. The more numbers on that, the more sponsors we can get and the bigger the show can get. That's your way of that's a way of you guys supporting us here.
That's
on
the
the
way you can support your buddies.
Your buddies. Support them. Anyway, we're going to get into things here like Andrew Garfield and Spider-Man. We're going to get some trailers. We're going to talk a little Wicked action. And our main topic is going to be getting into all the news that we got this week from DC Studios and the upcoming projects that are coming. Some exciting stuff, some interesting stuff, and some stuff we can certainly have fun conversations and debate on for sure. And that's going to be in our main topic and the way we usually do the show. For those who might be new, each of us brings up a geek news item. We talk about it amongst ourselves, take a couple of breaks, and then get into the main geek news item, which is the DC situation. So, gentlemen, I think I started off first. Yes. So let's get into it here. Andrew Garfield. Hey, remember this guy? He played Spider-Man. Well, he's being interviewed recently because he's got a new film coming out called We Live in Time, which looks like another one of these great British rom-coms like About Time and like other things with him and Florence Pugh. So I've seen the trailers for this. I've heard great stuff, seen the reviews. So I can't wait to see this one. And he was asked about coming back to play Spider-Man or Peter Parker and said, for sure, I would 100% come back if it was the right thing. If it's additive to the culture, if there's a great concept or something that hasn't been done before that's unique and odd and exciting and that you can sink your teeth into, I love that character and it brings joy. If part of what I bring is joy, when I'm joyful, then I'm joyful in return. He also said that coming back was quote unquote healing for him to play Spider-Man again. And on the heels of this, there came out some rumors from My Time to Shine Hello who said that, according to their sources, Andrew Garfield will be coming back for 2 Spider-Man movies. So this, the fact that he's talking about it, the fact that this is kind of coming up now, it seems like this is in motion. Gentlemen, Michael, I go to you first. Are we looking at Sony Pictures Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield coming back to maybe elevate the Sony Spider-Verse in the next phase? Your thoughts on his comments and if he's coming back? Sorry.
I think the comments are great. The comments are what any actor should say. He nailed it. Yeah. Look, he got paid a lot of money to be Spider-Man. I'm sure he would love to get that paycheck again. Would you like to be Spider-Man again? Sure. If it made sense, I'd love to come back. I really had a great time. Would love to be Spider-Man again. Yeah. That's the correct answer. Here's the thing.
Nothing against British rom-coms. Nothing against British rom-coms, but Spider-Man would be
so I will, in Andrew Garfield's defense, like Andrew Garfield is not an actor who is struggling to make ends meet trying to find his next role. He does great. He is an amazing actor, period. He's amazing in super dramatic roles. He's amazing in period pieces. Like Andrew Garfield, I mean, when No Way Home came out, Tick, Tick, Boom was out at the same time. Like the dude is like great, just across the board. So he's gonna be fine whether he puts the tights on again or not. But I think he, the piece of the article that I think led to him saying he would love to play it again, which is actually kind of sweet, is that he really did. He loved Spider-Man. He was thrilled to play Spider-Man. The first Amazing Spider-Man movie, I think we all were like, okay, good, strong start. Let's see where it goes. The second one is a mess. And I think he did feel bad. Like he thought he was going to get to lead this franchise, and it sort of just fizzled after the second movie. Yeah. And to be able to come back in No Way Home and not only play Peter Parker again, but to get a moment that gave you an emotional wrap up of your franchise when he caught MJ, when he caught Zendaya. Yeah. That was great. And so it sort of did put a little bow on his storyline. And I think we all left feeling like there's more story there for that Peter Parker if they could do it. Do I think Sony could do it? No, I do not think they could. I think they have proven that they should have those toys taken away from them forever. That being said, because I almost am loath to say this because I just don't really think that Sony will do it right. But everybody, Marvel, and Sony have a golden opportunity with Secret Wars coming up. I mean, I think there's I think when we get to Secret Wars, there's the likelihood that when we get to Secret Wars, we're going to see Hugh Jackman as Logan, Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. Like, I think the fact that we could see everybody in Secret Wars is a big possibility. But at the end of Secret Wars, when a character, most likely the son of a very fantastic couple, puts the multiverse back to rights again, there is a moment where Tom Holland could be done. Like, there is a moment where in the 616 Marvel universe, there is now a young guy named Miles Morales who is the new Spider-Man in the MCU. And over in the Sony universe, Andrew Garfield is Peter Parker, and he is dealing with stuff in his corner of the multiverse, and Sony now has a Spider-Man franchise back that can make a lot of money that doesn't compete with the Marvel franchise because Marvel is doing Miles and Sony can do Peter with Andrew Garfield, and I think everybody would be super down for that, except for the fact that I don't think Sony knows how to play with those toys in that toy box. So I mean, look, they've already sort of alienated Lord and Miller, who were the ones that were sort of nailing everything. So it just doesn't feel like Sony has a good handle on it. That being said, given Andrew Garfield's talent and likability, and given the possibilities that are open after Secret Wars, there's a world where it could work.
Okay. He says as he sips his tea. Share your thoughts on this idea. Andrew Garfield coming back. Tobey Maguire has also said he would love to come back. Even in a cameo role, he'd be down to come back after how Spider-Man No Way Home was received. So do you think this is now him greasing the wheels a little bit, teasing us as fans that he is going to be coming back? And am I off base? It's not Sony. It'll be in the MCU as a couple of things with Secret Wars. Remember, Secret Wars is over 2 movies, and this is rumor. The rumor is he'll be back for 2 movies. So would this be the way he comes back and then he's done with the character and we move on? And what do you think of his comments?
I mean, one, who knows what we're going to get with Secret Wars? I mean, in the last few years, I think Marvel didn't know what we were going to get with Secret Wars. So watching the 3 of them together, they did have great chemistry. Like Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland. They did work really well together. And as Vogel already put, it gave Andrew Garfield's Peter 3 a nice emotional conclusion to his story. But in that conclusion, because he talked about in his world after the death of Gwen, how he went a little darker. Like he stopped pulling his punches. So having a Spider-Man redeemed, would it be great to see how he takes the lessons from his multiversal adventure and applies them to his world? Absolutely. I mean, again, Andrew Garfield is a very, very, very likable, very talented performer. And the issues with those Amazing Spider-Man movies were never him. I mean, the thing that I feel like most audiences came out, even in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was a mess, was the chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. And having Andrew Garfield be able to continue that story, I think would be great. Also, you add the Miles Morales factor in. When you think about what they did in Spider-Verse, but also what Greg Weisman is doing with Spectacular Spider-Man, having Peter and Miles team up, I mean, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, I think pairing any one of them with a young Miles is a recipe for success. So those 2 movies, I mean, whether it is Secret Wars and it's sort of like you spin that off into his Sony Spider-Man movies, great. I would love to see that Peter Miles combo. I think that would be a lot of fun. And whether it would be Andrew Garfield or be Tobey Maguire, I think it would be great.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a Miles Morales live action in Secret Wars. I think we're going to get a Spider-Gwen live action in Secret Wars. Somebody call up Haley Steinfeld. I think this is absolutely in motion at some point in these Secret Wars. It's very possible because you've got to hand off the mantle. And it would be nice to have Tobey and Andrew coming back in different ways to be mentors, not to Tom Holland, but to the other younger heroes, the young Avengers they keep teasing us with. It would be really interesting, as you said, Shannon, teaching them not to pull their punches, maybe in a moment of anger and frustration, like they did with Tom, walk him back from that anger against Green Goblin at the end of No Way Home. So there are possibilities where these really veteran actors can come in and in a way, have a meta type of mentor relationship with the young actors who are taking over in the MCU and in Marvel going forward in Secret Wars. That could be a lot of fun to see. That being said, I just really like Andrew Garfield as a person. I really do.
Yeah.
I love his interviews. I love the way he handles himself. I love how relaxed he is. How many actors would dress up as Spider-Man to show up at Comic-Con and ask a question like that? Like, there's just a general joy. And as Shannon kind of alluded to, he wasn't the reason those movies didn't work.
No.
And it's for those of us who are fans, there's a sense of heartbreak about that whole situation because we know he loved playing Spider-Man. He loved playing Peter Parker, and it didn't 100% work out. And so we feel a sense of sadness with that, which is why No Way Home was so cathartic, not just for him, he talks about healing, but for us as well as fans. So if they bring him back, and if he's coming back for 2 appearances, I hope these appearances are good. I hope that these appearances work and they continue the healing, continue us enjoying him being a part, because people made way for Hayden Christensen to come back, and now people want more of him to come back. And certainly it was great in Ahsoka, a little bit less so in Kenobi, but certainly Ahsoka, that was an awesome episode. So let's create the space to bring people back who are older and can deliver different levels and layers to their performances here of iconic characters like Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So I'm down.
Yes. With the everything you said, yes, with the caveat of, and it's what Andrew Garfield said, if it makes sense for story.
Yes,
I mean, to your point, in both Doomsday and Secret Wars, we know that what we're building toward, like to Shannon's point, Marvel has changed their plan 1,000 times, but what the plan is definitely is the multiverse is collapsing and universes are incursing on each other.
Yes.
So these worlds collapsing and worlds colliding and Spider-Man or X-Men or anybody coming back into the mix, and then Robert Downey Jr. and potentially Doctor Strange rebuilding the multiverse into Battle World with the pieces that are left over, it's an easy way to make sense to make everybody come back together.
Yeah.
And it really is, the question is coming out after that, where does the dust settle?
Right. Yeah, good point. Where does the dust settle? And look, I mean, that's just, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just, I don't know, super cathartic, man. Anyway. All right, well, let's take a quick break and let's get into some wicked stuff after this.
Do 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 do.
Did he add a note or two, Mike? I don't know. I don't know the music.
Probably several.
Mr. Vogel, take it away.
Well, speaking of adding to, if you have a movie app and you've been checking out the upcoming movie releases, you might have seen Wicked start to pop up. And if you saw Wicked pop up, you might have seen that the runtime is 2 hours and 40 minutes. Now, that means that Act 1, well, the first movie of Wicked's 2-part movie, which most likely is the first act of Wicked, is going to be as long as the entirety of Wicked, the Broadway show. So that has a lot of people scratching their heads, a lot of people concerned. How are you stretching one half of this show into something that is as long as the entire show itself? And there's been a lot of discussion online about it. Some people pretty concerned about this. Some people are like, fuck it, give me as much Wicked as possible. I think I know where I stand on this, but I would like to check with my heterosexual cisgender counterparts.
How dare you?
And see how they feel about a 2 hour and 40 minute Wicked Part 1. And then I will explain why they are wrong.
Look,
Shannon?
some of us. Okay, Shannon, go ahead.
I'm totally fine with it if it's a good movie.
Wow.
If the 2 hours and 40 minutes is handled well, there are certain times that a filmmaker gets too much rope and they end up hanging themselves, like Peter Jackson with King Kong. Like Universal clearly said, "Oh yeah, three times." Universal clearly said with King Kong in the wake of Return of the King of the trilogy, like, hey, do whatever you want. And that is exactly what he did. So, I mean, the adding of time doesn't surprise me, because when you are taking something that was conceived to be on stage and you put it on screen, especially when you're dealing with a fantasy world, you get a lot more toys to play with. And I get that they probably, John M. Chu probably wants to play with those toys. Make these sequences as spectacular and visually dazzling as you can. Now, again, having not seen the show, knowing that
this one of the best Broadway shows ever is 20 years old. How have you not seen it?
I haven't seen it.
Is it on Disney Plus? No.
I saw Something Rotten 3 times though. But I mean, adding time to something doesn't surprise me, especially when you are dealing with a fantastical world where you have incredible production design. You want to show off as much of that world as you can, something that they couldn't do on stage. Whether it feels emotionally and narratively like it's being stretched, that will be the case. I think, audiences have proven time and time again, if what you're getting is good, the length doesn't matter. Right. I mean, Avengers Endgame, 3-hour movie. I being an MCU fan, I was ready for 1 more hour. I'm like, let it just keep it playing. And I would have to think that most non-comic folks, if they were on board at that point, they were probably in the same boat. Like, let it just keep going. So if it's a good 2 hours and 40 minutes, fantastic. If it's not, we'll see how long part 2 is.
Yeah, so I'm of many minds of this. Of course, I think Michael was right, and maybe the person who reached out to Michael was right on Twitter. And I when I first saw this, 2 hours and 40 minutes, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This is ridiculous. No one wants to sit. Well, fair point. Maybe some, but I don't think a lot of people want to sit for 2 hours and 40 minutes for part 1 of Wicked. That being said, because I'm going to go back and forth on this. That being said, if the rumors are true that they're including the Dorothy story and Wizard of Oz, and they will, because they don't appear in the musical, if they're going to appear here and they're going to have fleshed out storylines and they're going to be weaving Wizard of Oz actually into Wicked, then that's a different conversation. And then I understand why it warrants the runtime, because I imagine the other one's going to be 2 hours and a half or 2 hours and 20 as well to wrap up all the storylines. Yeah, I mean, my worst fear is this is actually a trilogy, and John just doesn't want to let us know that this is a trilogy. And this is like Fellowship of the Ring, where it's just going to see them running across grassy knolls for like 3 hours. I don't know. We'll see. But this is, I am nervous about this. But if they include the Dorothy stuff on all the Wizard of Oz characters, then it makes sense, because you've got to flesh out the storylines. You got to lay the groundwork, the foundation. And so you can be excited for part 2 when it comes out. So do I want it to be a good movie? Yes. Do I want to sit 2 hours and 40 minutes and enjoy it? Yes, because some of us heterosexual cisgender people will brave the accusations of being gay because we love musicals, and I love good musicals. So I don't have a problem.
How many times have you seen Wicked?
Well, I haven't seen Wicked a lot because I don't go to the musicals on the stage that often. So that's a fair. I've never seen Hamilton until it came on Disney Plus. So, it's just the things that I go on in those situations. But I will say, this is a dangerous strategy. Gladiator 2 comes out. Moana 2 comes out in December. This is a dangerous strategy for them to go up against these films and have less show times because of the length of the movie that in order to make a profit. This is where I think it gets dangerous business-wise. Creatively is a separate conversation. Business-wise, this is a dangerous decision they're making in a December. And clearly they must have confidence in this movie if they're going to let this thing go for 2 hours and 40 minutes. So I'm both cautiously optimistic, but also very trepidatious about what the end result's going to be. That's my overall.
Interesting. So broadly, if you know the musical, I do think they are going to incorporate Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz storyline more than what we see implied in the Broadway stage show.
Right.
But I don't think that happens until the second movie. Just the way that Wicked is structured for what's going on in the first movie, and they even say it in the trailer, find out what happened before Dorothy. So I think Wicked 1 is all pre-Dorothy setting up. I do think Wicked 2 is going to incorporate a good bit more of the Wizard of Oz story than we've seen. That being said, the counterpoint to all this, and I don't think that every musical should do this, but I will say as a fan of movie musicals, a lot of times the challenge with a musical, even though you have a 2.5 hour musical and you have a 2.5 hour movie, with a movie, you always have to flesh out the characters a little bit more. You have to flesh out the world a little bit more. You have to add a little bit more sauce to the mixture. And so what ends up happening with movies like In the Heights or Into the Woods or any of these adaptations is you feel like you are barreling through the movie just to get all the songs in. Yeah. And you reach a middle point of the movie where the Act 1 finale is, and you go, okay, that was good. And you're like, oh, fuck, there's another hour and 15 minutes to this movie. And it just feels very, very rushed. So with Wicked, there is a lot of story. There is a lot of extra that you can fill in the gaps to. So in the case of Wicked, which is a level of popularity of musical that is so high, I think it's actually smart to go, let's take this first half of the story, which is basically the origin of the Wicked Witch, and really blow this out. Add some things, really get in there. Now, Shannon's absolutely right. Sometimes adding all the stuff that you want to add as a creative, you can hang yourself, and everyone's like, we didn't need all that. I would point to taking The Hobbit, the shortest of the Fellowship of the Rings books, and making it into 3 movies all by itself. But I think in the case of Wicked, this is smart because you're going to get this real banger movie. I think Defying Gravity being close to the end of a movie makes sense, given just the powerhouse that song is. They've already said that Steven Schwartz is writing 2 new original songs for Wicked 2 to like fill out that part of the story, perhaps filling out some of the Dorothy side of the story that isn't as focused on. So I think in this case, getting a pre-Wizard of Oz movie and then a movie that takes place during the events of Wizard of Oz kind of makes sense. So I see why Universal did it. I'm really on board. I'm really excited. This is like the thing that I am most excited for the rest of the movies this year. I think it's going to break $1 billion. We're going to see.
You think it's going to break $1 billion?
Yeah.
Wow.
You've said this so many times and been wrong. I don't mind throwing this one out there, being like,
"I know
"This
you're
will be my
right.
$1 billion bet." This, and if I'm wrong,
you're 100% right.
I'm wrong. It's fine. Johnny's been wrong several times. This is my $1 billion bet for the rest of 2024.
Easy. I would say several, a few. I wouldn't say several, for God's sakes. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I had no idea Deadpool and Wolverine would make $1 billion. That shocked me. All right, we'll see. But if it's good, as Shannon alluded to, that's really the important thing. If it's good, then I think it does have a chance to be a massive hit, because as we saw with Greatest Showman, didn't start out well, went all the way to $400 million. So a musical in December opening is a good time to open it if you can get people on board. Then again, West Side Story, I think that was only $10 million and opened in December as well. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's take another break. And on the other side, we'll talk to Shannon McClung about his trailers right after this.
Speaking of Defying Gravity.
Hey, look at that guy over there.
I'm audition. Yeah, I gotta prime the engine.
All right, Shannon, take it away. What do you got for us, brother?
With trailers. The first one, as evidenced by what I hummed in the little interstitial, we get a documentary about the great John Williams, aptly titled Music by John Williams. This one's coming to Disney Plus. It covers basically the life of composer extraordinaire John Williams. I mean, his relationship with George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, just the contributions that he has made to the art of film scoring and how he kind of revolutionized it. And it looks like we touch on his relationship with his family as well. Like any great artist, it seems like they're not always able to access their feelings in a traditional way, so they do it through their art. This one is going to be, I know this one is going to make me cry, because film music makes me cry. Knowing that it's going to make another one of you cry, I'll throw it over to you, Mikey, first. What did you think of our look at Music by John Williams?
My brother and I are in a constant debate about the greatest film composer of all time. I am very squarely in the John Williams category. My brother is very squarely in the Hans Zimmer category, and we duke it out constantly on Johnny versus Hansi. But I am very squarely in the John Williams camp, and I think it's great. Look, Disney, for all that Disney Plus does with their Marvel shows and their Star Wars shows and the things that we all get excited about, they low-key have gotten, like, between the Imagineering documentary, the Industrial Light and Magic documentary, the Jim Henson documentary that just came out that Ron Howard directed, and now this, like, they've got a good, solid taking some of the IP that they own and the companies that have helped build that IP, or the people that have helped build that IP, and they've done a really nice job. So I think this is going to be a great documentary. Look, what most people don't realize is that in the 60s into the 70s, classic film composing had been replaced by a more modern sound. Like there was a very different vibe to film composing. And with Steven Spielberg and George Lucas coming in with a love of like classic movies, you know, Steven Spielberg kind of finding this young guy, Johnny Williams, doing Jaws, and then George Lucas calling Steven Spielberg up and being like, I need someone to do my Star Wars thing, but I want it to sound like classic. And Steven Spielberg being like, hey, call this guy Johnny Williams who just did my Jaws score. He's into the same thing. And the three of them sort of single-handedly brought back movie scores the way that we think of movie scores today. And so John Williams is one of the greats. He has, more than anyone else, has nailed some of the greatest themes throughout his career. Not like he had some hits at the beginning and went and then like bottomed out. Like from Jaws and Superman and Star Wars all the way to Jurassic Park and Harry Potter. Like the man has more banger themes than I think anyone else. So I can't wait to watch this. I am going to be humming all of the songs all day long when it comes out.
Johnny, music by John Williams, thoughts by John Roca. What you got?
Oh, God. Look, I am no score whore as you two are, so I concede the floor always to you two and your thoughts on this. But I will say this. I thoroughly love John Williams, and I unknowingly loved his songs and his compositions before I even knew who he was, you know, because when I saw Star Wars, I had no idea who John Williams was, but I just knew I loved the music. When I saw Superman, I knew I loved the music. I didn't know who John Williams was. One of the gifts I got as a young kid as a present from my dad and mom was the double album of Superman, which is the score. And so I remember playing that on my record player before it became cool to buy them again when I was a kid and listening to it all. So John Williams has been a part of my life since I was a young kid. And so to grow as I got older and understand how many pies that his fingers have been in terms of music, not just in the geek world, but in musicals and in all, something like the Poseidon Adventure, which is one of my favorite cheesy disaster films from the 1970s, or the
Olympics.
Yeah, the Olympics, or the Towering Inferno, which of course all of that is covered in the trailer. It was so much fun to watch this trailer. The thing that is weird for me is seeing him as a young man. I don't know that John Williams. I only know white-haired, gray beard John Williams. I don't know this young guy that looks like a little bit like a young Orson Welles over there composing and pushing other people away and whatever. So I think this is a really fun thing. And I love that Disney Plus is doing this. They also released a trailer for Elton John, and I'm looking forward to seeing that documentary as well. So Disney Plus, I know they're getting crap sometimes for some of the Star Wars shows, Marvel shows. These documentary things they've been doing have been so excellent and on point. So I'm there, and of course, along with the Imagineering stuff and the behind the scenes with all the different Marvel films, this stuff they've been really nailing. So I'm 1,000% on board with this. And this trailer made me emotional and happy, and also kind of melancholy, because we know we're coming near the end for John Williams, and it will be announced, especially this week when so many people have died. It's really scary to think about.
I think he's 92.
Yeah. So it's up there, brother. But yeah, great trailer. 100% great trailer.
So music by John Williams drops November 1st on Disney Plus. That brings us to, I'm assuming, the conclusion of the trilogy that no one ever expected to get, with Paddington in Peru. Dougal Wilson takes over for Paul King. This time, Paddington and the Browns head to Peru to find Paddington's beloved Aunt Lucy, voiced by Emile de Stanton. Man, who knew that the Bear in the Red Hat was going to get 3 feature films? Johnny, what were your thoughts? Should it have been Paddington in Bolivia? I mean, they're neighbors, right?
Yes, neighbors, but Peru thing is connected to Paddington, so because he's from there. But look, to me, I love this. I've never seen either one of these, so I need to correct that quickly, because this trailer looked very sweet.
I love this. I've seen none of them.
Yeah, I've seen none of them, but this trailer looked very sweet and very funny. I love Ben Whishaw. I think he's the voice of Paddington. So there's a tenderness and a fun vulnerability and softness that he brings to Paddington that I love to see. Olivia Colman as a possibly crazy nun is just brilliant. And so, and then going into Peru and then bringing in Banderas. who has played apparently every Latino under the sun from every damn Latino country there is, even though he's Spanish, I thought was a really nice flavor to bring in, because Antonio is great. No matter where you find him in, what movie he's in, he's always a lot of fun. Even the most recent Indiana Jones film, I thought he was great in that for the limited screen time he got. So it's a nice collection of actors along with Hugh Bonneville and I forget the other actor.
Emily Mortimer.
Emily Mortimer, yeah. It's a nice collection of actors involved in this. So it looks like a lot of fun. And what are they going to discover in the Amazon? Will there be any revolutionaries there hiding out in the jungles? I don't know. There's all kinds of possibilities. So I'm on board though, because I think this is a very sweet character, and I do need to watch those two movies.
Mikey, was a swashbuckling Paddington thing? Was that on your bingo card?
It was not, but I'm more than happy to add it. As someone who has seen the Paddington movies, I think they're super delightful. I mean, they really are, in a world where so many of the movies, like, and look, I love these, but like with DreamWorks and even Pixar, Disney, like there's like the pop culture references and this is super witty and super clever, this big epic musical, like, and I love all of that stuff. So like, that's all great. The Paddington movies just have this sort of sincerity and sweetness to them that a lot of kids' movies today don't have. It feels more like a movie that you would have watched back in the 80s or early 90s, that just is this very sweet movie, and not a kid movie that in a way that it like is dumbed down or has a lower budget or anything like that. It's a big budget movie. It feels smart, it feels clever, but it's just really, really, really sweet. And it's something that a lot of other movies have tried, but kind of come across feeling a little bit saccharine or a little bit cheesy, and you don't quite land it. And the Paddington movies have always just managed to balance this thing where you're like, I am charmed by this. You just come out of the theater and you're like, well, that was lovely. I feel great. I would love some marmalade right now. And so this trailer kind of feels like it's in the same lines. All the movies, whether it's like Nicole Kidman, Hugh Jackman, Hugh Grant, like they've had like these huge names, and these actors look like they are having the absolute time of their lives playing these over-the-top broad characters. And with Antonio Banderas and Olivia Colman, like it looks like this is no different. So yeah, it looks super charming. It looks lovely. It looks like it feels the same as the other two movies. So hopefully it delivers in the same way.
Nice.
I mean, Paul King is one of the credited writers. I mean, he came up with the screen story. He's also one of the credited executive producers. Yeah, it's not a cynical franchise, at least based off of the first two films. And if there's any genre to get me on board a franchise, because I have seen the first two, and I'm like, oh, those are nice. If there's any genre to get me into a movie, it's throw in some explorations in the jungle looking for a lost city.
That's true.
So Paddington in Peru comes out January 17th, and that brings us to the second look of what is sure to warm your hearts this Christmas season. Our second look at Nosferatu. Written and directed by Robert Eggers. This one stars the very tall, very lanky Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok, Willem Dafoe, Nicholas Hoult, Emma Corrin, Aaron Taylor Johnson. It just looks scary. But at the same time, it is completely artistic. We still have not seen a great shot of Bill Skarsgård's Count Orlok, but what we do get at the end of this trailer, with a white curtain being blown open by some wind, you see a silhouette that is absolutely terrifying. So let's see, Mikey, we'll go to you first. What did you think of our second look at Nosferatu?
The choice to release this at Christmas. Like, I watched this trailer and I went, I wake up Christmas morning, I open some presents, the boys come over, we make some breakfast, and you do have that, like, we should go to the theater and see a movie today. But you go, after watching Elf and Spirited,
sure.
Is Nosferatu really the vibe? I don't know. It's an interesting choice. It looks scary as fuck. I mean, it looks like Robert Eggers, it's gonna get weird as fuck, but it feels like a spiritual successor to Bram Stoker's Dracula, in a way that no other Dracula movies thus far have.
Yeah.
It looks weird. It looks disturbing. And yeah, that shot at the end of the trailer where the cloth sort of blows and you see that silhouette. I was like, oh yeah, I don't need that in my life. I don't want it. Like it looks creepy. It looks creepy, and I'm excited to see what it is, like what Robert Eggers does with the Nosferatu Dracula story. At the same time, I don't think I'm running out on Christmas Day to go see this. Like, this is like, I don't like, so again, it's just the time of year that it's coming out. I'm like, why did they do that? Like, I don't know, but we'll see. Maybe the counter programming will work great for them. As everyone else is going to see
programming.
As everyone else is going to see Wicked for the third or fourth time to get me to that $1 billion. Maybe some people will want to go see this.
Johnny, are you and the Lady Outlaw? Is this going to be your Christmas Day plans?
You know what? It's a funny thing you bring her into it, because I don't know. With her, it's a crapshoot with movies. I never know what she's into or not into, but maybe. But she doesn't usually like horror, so I don't know if she'll go see it. But maybe because it's artistic, she might. For me, I've been looking forward to this one ever since they announced it. So the previous trailer was fucking incredible, and this one looks awesome. And I like Eggers. I like Lighthouse. I liked The Northman. I thought that was an awesome movie. I love The Northman. So I like what he does and the darker aspects he brings. You guys know this. I love the darker stuff when it's done well.
What?
This looks, this looks.
You like dark? I had no idea.
This looks like in that vein and excites me. And look, I have a long history. Yeah,
Come on.
Oh, God.
I have a long history with Nosferatu because that's the first film I saw as a child that scared the living hell out of me at 7 years old. So and I thought what's his name? Yeah, the Werner Herzog version was good, fine with Klaus Kinski. It was interesting, but this one looks like it's much more artistic. And don't be surprised if people are talking about this one as a best picture. That could be really interesting. And you left off Lily Rose Depp on your cast list there, Shannon. I'm going to be curious to see if I like where I'm at with her as an actress after this movie, because I didn't like that one with her in The Weekend. I thought I did one episode of that. Like, no, thanks. So I want to see where I'm at with her, of course, because she's Johnny Depp's daughter. I want to see where I'm at with her as an actress after this movie and see if there's more coming. But yeah, dude, I'm so down for this. I can't wait. I'm probably going to see it multiple times if it's good.
Well, will it warm your heart? Will it rip your throat out? Only one way to find out. Christmas Day when Nosferatu hits theaters.
That's true. That's true. All right, let's take one more last break. And on the other side, we'll get into a bunch of DC stuff here that's happening this week right after this.
Bum-ba-dum. Bum-ba-dum, bum-ba-dum. Bum-ba-dum, bum-ba-dum. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum-ba-bum.
All right, I'm going to go through these stories and then just toss to people and you all talk about them. Unless you want to do it, Michael, up to you. I'm happy to do it if you want to.
No, go for it.
Okay. Let's jump into the first one, and that is this story here, Dynamic Duo. This is happening. It's coming from Matt Reeves and James Gunn in their first co-venture. So everybody put down your battle weapons here. James Gunn and Matt Reeves are working together. There's not this effort to push Matt Reeves out. This is a newly announced project called Dynamic Duo, which follows the origin story of two Robins, Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. It is a co-production with DC Studios and Warner Brothers Pictures Animation, but they're also working with this animation studio called Swaybox. And the way it's described is the story follows Grayson and Todd as young orphan thieves who call themselves the Dynamic Duo. It will be produced, as I said, by both James Gunn and Matt Reeves. Swaybox uses a technology known as Momo animation, which is a cross between CGI, practical elements of stop motion, and live action real-time performance. The result is long-form storytelling billed as visually breathtaking, dynamically expressive, and more human. Michael, I go to you first. This is an interesting decision. There's no indications that this is going to be canon or not canon, but what a fascinating decision to go this way. What are your thoughts?
It is interesting. It's an interesting concept. First, on the whole canon part, a part of me kind of hopes it's canon.
Yeah.
Like, we know there's been a lot of talk. We all know that Brave and the Bold is going to be about Batman and Damian.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of questions, but James Gunn has definitely referenced the Bat family. So there was a lot of thoughts of, okay, well, we are going to get like maybe Nightwing is already Nightwing, Jason Todd is already the Red Hood, is Tim Drake around? Like, you know, like there was a lot, Stephanie Brown, like there's a lot of questions about like who's going to show up. And I think ultimately it's a smart move by James Gunn and Peter Safran to sort of leap over a lot of the origin stories so that they get the whole toy box to play with. Like you get as many characters as possible. This could be a really great way to sort of give the backstory of the DCU's version of Dick and Jason, and then have them just be in Brave and the Bold. So I kind of hope it is canon. If it's not, and it's sort of its own thing, if it's a great story, it's a great story. But like I'm kind of, I can tell in my heart that I want it to be, because I love when animated things get the respect of being part of the bigger universe. So whether that is Clone Wars, whether that's What If, or some of the stuff in the MCU, when something is like, oh, this is canon, this counts for animation as opposed to, oh, it's animation, it's over on the side, I always feel good about that, for the good of all the people that work on these films. That being said, whether it's canon or not, changing the origin story so that Dick and Jason are orphans together and are a dynamic duo, and not Dick was Robin first and then Jason came later. It's an interesting choice, and I'm really curious as to where they came to on that and what that story is. Like, how do you have two characters coming up together and then one of them is a Robin once and then another one's a Robin? You don't have two Robins at the same time. So I'm curious as to what this story is going to be. When I saw the announcement and saw puppetry, I really scratched my head. I was like, the fuck are they talking about? Then I went to the Swaybox Studios website and I looked at their reel from 2017. From 2017. So it's older. So like this is what they were doing a few years ago, not even what they're doing now. And when you look at the reel and what they've managed to put together with this this Momo technology that they have that sort of mixes puppetry, CG, 2D animation, I've not seen anything like it before. Yeah. And it got me really, really excited, particularly if you go to their website and wait till the end. In addition to their reel, which some people have been posting, there's also 2 test animations that they did with their technology. Oh. One that they tried to match the animation from a sequence in Iron Giant for acting, and then they tried to match a sequence from Rescuers Down Under for action. And when you watch what they were able to do with this technology, I went from being like a little bit cautious about this kind of stop motion-y Batman movie to being really, really excited. Yeah, Johnny's bringing it up right here. You can see like what this technology can do from an acting standpoint is really, really, really crazy. So James Gunn's promise that he's doing some really different stuff with DC, everything about this announcement, from the Robin story to the style of animation to everything, it's like he's really putting his money where his mouth is, and this got me very excited.
Yeah, Shannon, is this Brave and Bold? Or?
Yeah.
That's so easy. Go ahead.
That was great. It's definitely Brave and Bold. Whether it is successful, that is a different thing. And I do admire the swings that Gunn seems to be taking, but I feel like it's early in his DC universe to take this type of swing. Even just changing the origin like that, I think that can work. Yeah. But this is so kind of off the wall from what we are expecting to get. Now, maybe sometimes that's what you need, is something completely off the rails. But I'm more interested than optimistic right now. Like, I'm really curious. One, is it going to be part of the DC cinematic universe, which the idea that they are introducing young Dick and young Jason, I think, like Vogel, I'm like, that's smart. Like, that's like, we do get a little bit of backstory before we are then introduced to the characters in live action. Me being me, I would kind of just, on the surface, I would want just a down the middle approach. I'm like, make it a live action movie, make it an animated movie. Yeah. Again, it could be fantastic, but I think, again, and something else that they are doing, and we're going to talk more about it, they announced a bunch of projects about a year ago or a year and a half ago. And we know that 3 are coming, or 4 are coming, that Superman, Supergirl, Creature Commandos, and Lanterns. Mm-hmm. They're adding more stuff. They just keep adding more stuff, and I'm getting PTSD from the former DC regime where they announce all these movies and we don't get any of them. So maybe once Gunn Superman comes out, that concern will be lessened. But right now it's like, you got so much to do. Maybe don't announce a bunch more shit.
Yeah, it's an interesting place because I mean, like when you go back to 2008, Feige did not go, we've got like 12 Marvel movies, right? It was a slow rollout. Let's see if they like it. If they like it, then we have plans behind the scenes for what we want to do next, right? We're not going to say anything. But then, of course, after they establish themselves, let's hold a big thing at the El Capitan and show you all the things that are coming on. So with the way James is doing it, it is curious. It is interesting, but he's made it very clear from the beginning. Heroes already exist. This world already we're not going to go origin by origin by origin. Everything exists already. So this is an interesting approach. Yeah, my initial reaction was, I don't know. But then thinking about it more, I go, you know what? You got to get out of your old ways of thinking sometimes. This is out of the box thinking. This is out of the box approach. Is it going to work? I don't know. But I do appreciate the boldness of going in this direction. And it really shuts up people, especially people who have been very clear that they thought that Matt Reeves and James Gunn were having issues with each other and weren't going to be able to coexist. They're coming together to do this. And that, I think, speaks volumes as well, that they see Matt Reeves as an essential part of the studio, an important part of the studio. Look at the way Penguin is being received. You don't kick him out now, for God's sakes. You wait and see how this all goes down. So what are they going to create? Is it going to be canon? And this is a great way to walk the line. It doesn't have to be canon, but it can be if people like it a lot. So we'll just make it canon. So you get to play it that way a little bit. And I think it works, but it's very bold, and I appreciate the boldness of it all. Yeah,
I will say, I mean, to Shannon's point, I get what Shannon is saying. I think that
in
the Hollywood,
all those projects,
well, just the do it animated, but why take this big swing? Why do this? But like Hollywood does have this tendency to, as soon as somebody does take a big swing, boy, everybody wants to copy it. Yeah, like when Sony did the first Spider-Verse movie, that looked really different than everything else that was out there.
The animated Spider-Verse movie, yes.
And now you can't, and I can attest to this because I've been in these meetings, you cannot have a meeting about an animated movie without somebody saying, what if we made it look like Spider-Verse? It is literally all anybody says. It's, oh, well, Spider-Verse looked really cool. Whoa, what is that animation style they did for the Ninja Turtles? Like, we should do something like that. So Hollywood is really good at looking at when somebody finally does something new that works, going, let's make everything look like that. So if they came out and said, we're going to do this dynamic duo movie and it looks like Spider-Verse, we would all go, oh, fuck yeah. Spider-Verse is how you make a comic book movie look like. It looks great. What James Gunn is doing something that he found, whether he found it or Matt Reeves found it or whoever introduced who to Swaybox Studios, said, look at what they're doing. What if we did a movie that looks like this? And this is where James Gunn's background as sort of this indie filmmaker may end up working to his advantage more than to his detriment, because he saw something and said, okay, I don't fucking care. I know that every meeting I go into, everyone is telling me to make an animated movie look like Spider-Verse. This is cool. And if we can make an animated action movie out of this, fuck, man, we'll probably win the Oscar. Like, this is badass. So, yeah, it is a big swing, and it might not work. But I appreciate really sort of pushing the envelope of animation as opposed to doing a straight down the line, let's do the Robins in an animated movie that's very Spider-Verse, Ninja Turtles, whatever. I think this is really, if this works, it's a bigger win. And if it doesn't work, okay, you took a swing and you missed. We'll see. Hopefully you got some more hits in some of these other things that we're announcing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's move on to these other things. Speaking of taking big swings, this broke a few days ago on the Hollywood Reporter from Boris Kitt. This is apparently happening. Deathstroke and Bane are getting movie treatments here at the DC Studios. Sources tell Hollywood Reporter that Bane, the super steroid injecting antagonist there, and Deathstroke, another popular arch nemesis in the comic book company's fold, are being lassoed together for a movie. James Gunn and Peter Safran led DC Studios is developing a script from Matthew Orton, a scribe on the upcoming Captain America Brave New World movie that's coming out here. So this is a fascinating situation. Two relatively new characters, you could argue. Bane in the 1990s, Deathstroke in 1980, but characters that have a certain kind of legacy with fans in the DC universe, certainly with Deathstroke at the end of BVS, that feeling of like, well, what can we do with this, or where can we go with it? Well, no, it was Suicide Squad, I think was it? Yeah, one of those.
No,
things.
it was BVS.
It was BVS. Okay, where are we going to go with this? With I can't say Joe's last name, so I'm not gonna. Manganiello. There we go. Boom.
So you were close.
It was close. So yes, that kind of thing. So Shannon, I'll go to you first since I went to Michael on the other one. What are your thoughts on this? Do you like this idea of a Bane and Deathstroke team up movie? Is this and here's another project that's been announced? What are your thoughts?
That's kind of my thing. It's like another thing. We don't have Batman yet. I mean, again, it could be cool. Like off the bat, it's like a Deathstroke Bane movie. It's like, okay, so it seems kind of Suicide Squad adjacent. Is Amanda Waller the one getting these two together? Is Deathstroke hired by someone to go get Bane out of a situation? I don't know. It's interesting. Like, I like both the characters, and I feel like Bane, no matter what you think of Tom Hardy's portrayal, Bane from the comics hasn't been done justice yet.
I agree.
I think the closest they've gotten is in the Young Justice animated series. Like, that's the most comics accurate Bane that we've gotten, and the comics accurate Bane of all the Banes we've gotten is to me the most interesting. And also Slade Wilson as Deathstroke. Man, he's a great character. Like, I was never on board with Manganiello playing him.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're both really, really great characters. How they fit together, what's the, what is the story going to be? That's the thing that I'm going to be curious about. And also, you look at, again, what we're already getting from DC. I mean, Lanterns being a terrestrial adventure with two space cops solving a murder, True Detective style. Yeah, like, is this the supervillain buddy comedy? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not willing to write it off because, again, I'm really excited to get this DC cinematic universe, but I'm just very curious. And it almost seems like, let's pull some things out of a hat. Yeah, let's put them together. I don't know. We'll see.
Certainly they come together from their mutual hatred of Batman, Michael, and Matthew Wharton has written some this is more like the Matt Reeves style. He wrote Operation Finale, which was the drama about the capture of Nazi SS officer Adolf Eichmann. He also wrote Devil's Peak, which was a serial crime miniseries in South Africa, and the thriller Cleaner, which starred Clive Owen and Daisy Ridley. That is in the can. And he earned a credit on Moon Knight as well. And they brought him back to do the reshoots, to write some of the reshoots for Captain America: Brave New World. So this could be a much darker approach, which is what some DC fans kind of like about these characters. Do you like the idea of Bane and Deathstroke coming together, maybe from their mutual hatred of Batman and going on some kind of buddy adventure together or whatever? What do you think?
Yeah, okay, couple things. First, Johnny, to correct you, 80s and 90s does not make them relatively new characters anymore. It's 2024.
You know what? Kiss my ass. That is new.
I'm just saying, when you said, yeah, Deathstroke, he's relatively new. He's from the 80s. I'm like, that's like 50 years ago.
It's not 50 years ago.
All right, but I do think Deathstroke is a great character. Look, Deathstroke has proven to be a great character independent of Batman. Deathstroke is just a great character in the DC universe. Deathstroke has a code, for lack of a better word, that makes him an interesting villain just all by him. I mean, obviously, I think at this point he's mostly associated with the Titans, but in general, like, he's just a really cool villain. Like, he's a cool guy and he's a fucking straight up badass. I agree with Shannon that Bane has probably been done a little dirty. I think the best version of Bane, frankly, is on Harley Quinn and Kite Man. But I mean, if we're being honest, that is at this point the best that Bane has ever been, but not in the way I think the DC universe wants to handle him. So I do think the opportunity of doing a more comics accurate Bane, where he's taken seriously and legitimately, and either not made just a giant silly doofy joke like Batman and Robin, or, as most people sort of were frustrated with, relegated to sort of a henchman for Talia in the Christopher Nolan movies. But letting him really stand on his own. What's interesting about what James Gunn is doing, and we will see if it works, is that he's not leading the new audience along. He's not saying what Marvel did, which what Marvel did, don't get me wrong, what Marvel did for when they did it was the way you should do it in the way that was super smart. Here's Iron Man. He became a hero. after he became a hero, this thing happened. Now we will tell you about this Captain America thing, but here's how it connects to Iron Man. And like, it was step by step. It was building blocks that built all the way up to Endgame. What James Gunn is doing is like, guys, these heroes have been around. There's been heroes for like 50 years. Like this has been going on for a while. There have been, Hal Jordan had his adventures. There were some other Robins. Maybe we're going to see them in the animated movie or not, but now Batman is dealing with this Robin. So he's kind of taking the idea that audiences have at least a base knowledge that these characters exist and letting them do that. So what that means is this movie could define the backstory of these two characters for us in a way that has nothing to do with Batman, nothing to do with Gotham City. Yeah. This is Deathstroke is on a mission in South America that he was hired to do by somebody, and all of a sudden runs into Bane for the first time. Bane has a reputation, but Bane is after something, and the two of them decide that they're going to team up even though they don't really get along and don't trust each other because they have a common goal. And this is just like a straight up 90s action political thriller that just happens to have these two very colorful characters that exist in a universe where superheroes have been around for 50 years. So if what James Gunn is doing works, and his world building of this is what the world is of this in the DC universe of heroes, these two meeting each other and having some crazy adventure could 100% work. And if the script is great, it'll be great. Or conversely, he's going down the road that Sony goes through with their Spider-Man villains, and we're going to see the trailer for the Deathstroke Bane movie, and we're going to be like, they're going to be standing in front of a cave, and a bunch of bats are going to fly out, and they're both going to go, well, we hate bats, and we're all going to be like, this fucking movie, I hate it. Like, so it could go either way, but right now with a lot of the announcements that are being made, I'm getting more and more excited than nervous about the choices that they've been making.
Yeah, and we got to look at it this way. Like that animation one we just talked about, that's going to be like 4 years, 5 years from now. God knows how long we're going to get to that because animation takes a while. This one, they're still starting out on the script. Who knows how long it's going to be? This is like Dread Pirate Roberts and Andre the Giant coming together on an adventure. That's what it feels like to me, and that could be a lot of fun from Princess Bride. Let's move on last thing because I know we got a heart out here for a certain somebody on this thing. All right, Teen Titans. This is apparently happening. A live action Teen Titans. So we're getting this from Boris Kitt at Hollywood Reporter as well. This comic book division of Warner Brothers has tapped Anna Nogueira, as you see there, to pen the screenplay for the project. She also is, of course, writing the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow film. And this is a live action feature film from James Gunn and Peter Safran's led DC Studios. Of course, Teen Titans was introduced back in the 1960s. That's apparently old for some people. Robin, Kid Flash, and Aqualad, and Wonder Girl, Speedy, which was a sidekick to Green Arrow later on. And of course, it was relaunched by Marv Wolfman and George Perez in the 1980s and has become a huge, huge group over the last few decades as well in people, in lore and in comics and in the animated versions as well. And now it's getting a live action movie here. Michael, I go to you first. Does this excite you? Are you trepidatious, or you see that maybe this is a great thing?
Well, clearly they loved her script for Woman of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what does it say about Anna
Nogueira? Giving her this script right after she's coming off of writing Woman of Tomorrow means that they're feeling really good about Woman of Tomorrow. So that's a plus. Lots of questions. Look. So is this origin story of Dick and Jason canon? Did he start as an orphan? Is that what it's going to be? Is this going to be a period piece? Right. If so, is this going to be a period piece? If Batman and Brave and the Bold already has Damian, then are we seeing a young Dick Grayson and this is the forming of this team and it's taking place back in the 80s or 90s? Like what? 2000s? Like what? I'm trying to think of the timeline. But like, so like, is that what this is going to be? Or have all of these, what did the Titans used to exist and they broke up? And the reason that we have a Deathstroke movie happening right now is off this Deathstroke and Bane movie. Yeah. The Titans have to get back together because they have to face Deathstroke again. So again, like, it's hard to say because with Marvel, you're always pretty clear on everything is going to be an origin story. We're now introducing this character into the universe. With DC, as James Gunn has said, you can place these characters anywhere. So the possibilities are exciting, but look, these are beloved characters, especially, again, thanks to animation. Both the Teen Titans animated series and Teen Titans Go means that this specific group of like Beast Boy, Cyborg, Raven, Sunfire, and Dick are really beloved by actually a couple generations now. and the Titans live action TV show. So I think the Titans are really popular characters. I think it's smart for them to bring them into the mix. How they bring them into the mix remains to be seen. But yeah, definitely excited.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Shannon? Of course, Teen Titans Go being a massive animated hit. What lineup would you want to see? Does this excite you? What are your thoughts on this? Do you want to see a live action Teen Titans, or once again, is one project too many being announced? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it is one project too many being announced. But that being said, of the three, this is the one I am the most excited about, because the Titans was the second title after I really got into comic books after '89 Batman came out. Titans was the title that I jumped, headlong into, because after '89 Batman is when A Lonely Place of Dying, the miniseries, and that was a Batman New Titans combo, which introduced Tim Drake. So the prospect of a live action Titans movie, that was why I went to a comic book shop for the first time. Wow. And I went and found like the Judas Contract, which was when Dick took off the yellow Robin cape and put on the blue Nightwing uniform. In terms of the lineup, I mean, I would like to see both. I mean, this whole idea that maybe the Titans disbanded at one point and had to come back together, I love that, because I would love to see classic Robin, classic Kid Flash, classic Aqualad, classic Wonder Girl, and how that group change and reforms when you add Cyborg, when you add Raven, when you add Beast Boy, when you add Starfire. Really, really exciting. And knowing, again, that this is a world that has already existed with superheroes, a Titans movie makes a lot of sense. Yeah. The Titans TV show, some hits, probably more misses. But I would be very, very excited to see the big screen version of the Teen Titans, definitely.
Yeah, and I got a feeling they're going to approach that much differently than they approached the show. So yeah, that excites me. I'd love a mix of the classic team and the newer team, which would be really interesting to see as some of these older characters. And I think Safran and James Gunn certainly have an appreciation for the older characters in DC, so it could be fun to see them coming in live action. We'll see. All right, well, there you go. That's our overall main show here for the Geek Buddies this week. Thank you all so much for joining us. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's @Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is @MKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Roca, it is @TheRocaSays.
Mikey.
Go ahead and smash that like button below, please and thank you. Subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page. We're getting more subscribers by the day, but we want more, so go ahead and hit subscribe right now. Leave your comments below. What do you think of everything coming out? What do you think of the DC Universe? What do you think of a 2-hour and 40-minute Wicked? Let us know all your thoughts below. If you're listening to us on a podcast, leave us some stars and some comments so we go up in the rankings and more people can find us. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
Go. Thank you all so much. Don't forget, we did our Agatha All Along and the Penguin reviews of the most recent episodes. Those are up there on the channel for you to watch or listen to on our podcast feed on the Geek Buddies as well. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next time. Oh, and we might have a Joker Folie à Deux spoiler review coming. We'll make announcements over the weekend on social media to let you know once we lock that down. So look for that as well here from the
Geek
Buddies. Yay!